Well, update on my alley on my side. It's starting to rain, so it's getting better. I just now, it happened last night. So, anyway, what topic should we talk about this time? You know, if you have a suggestion, put it down there in the comments. And if it's something I know a little bit about, then I'll probably use it. And if I can pronounce your name, I'll mention your name. But if I can, I'll say the person that mentioned it in the comments of the last video. Anyway, let's see. Everything's fine. I actually got in contact with one of my cousins that lives in Arizona, and we talked a little bit via Messenger, and it was pretty cool to hear from her. You know, I don't. I maybe have I have 3 of my cousins on my Facebook that on my dad's side. My mother didn't have siblings, so therefore I have first cousins via her, because she had plenty of cousins, but she was an only child, so I didn't have any, cousins on that side, except for, her cousins, like I said. But, I go on all kinds of things, like the Threads thing. Now they're all these crazy supporters of Trump are going on there, including people that are out of the country, and there's bot profiles too on there that are doing it too, but I personally think that he needs to redefine himself and do what's right for the country and not what's right for him in his mind. And maybe talk to the Pentagon on the experts about war before starting one, as seen as he's never done the war thing before. That's just my take on it, because, who would know more about it than the people that work at the Pentagon? This is not about putting him down or anything, or, it's true. I don't like him. I never have. I didn't like him before he even ran for the first time. I couldn't stand him. But that's who was voted for, and that's who we have to deal with, and I'm grown up enough to say that. That doesn't mean that I like the idea of him being there. To me, him and the whole Republican part of that administration, because of all the hate they've been spewing left and right about Democrats, liberals, and the rest of the other parties, I personally think they all need to be fired. But, who am I? I have no say-so in anything. I'm not part of the legislation. I'm not part of the Senate, or the House. So, I mean, what can I say, I can only state my opinion like everybody else does, and there's people that support and follow Trump, and there's people that don't like me. And I have friends that do, people, I grew up around that do support him, and I don't say nothing to them bad about it, and when they post something about him, I don't say nothing to them, because that's their opinion. But I'm not going to stand there and say, that man is not a choir boy, okay? Get it through your head. He's done some pretty shady things in the past. And I'm not talking about the president part. I'm talking about, in his business dealings. I'm talking about how he cheated on the first wife with the second wife, and then cheated on the second wife with his now wife, who he cheated on her when he first got into office. That came out. So to me, he's that's scum. You know, you shouldn't do that. If you didn't want to be married to the person in the first place, don't marry him. You know, I do personally think that his kids that are old enough to go into the military should have a taste of it. He dodged it for some reason. I don't know why. Probably because he was a rich man's son, but that's how it goes with, the absolute rich. You know, they can pay off somebody to go for them. So, you know, so I think he personally dodged going into the military when the Vietnam War was, because he's old enough to have been in it. You know, my brothers went. You know, my dad went. I mean, there was a point where my dad had to come home because I got pushed off a baseball dugout when I was 7, and he had to come back for that. But then he went back and finished his tour. The Army gave him a year, and then he had to go back after that. So he went back and finished the tour. But I mean, believe me, the troops do not get paid what they should. They're out there spilling their blood, and eventually, some will die because it's part of their job. We never knew when if my dad and my brothers were going to be okay. My mom and my other brother and I were sitting at home, and she had to work because she had to make ends meet. I mean, the money didn't come rolling in, because when they're overseas like that, they get paid like maybe half, and then the rest goes to the family if they have family, but that's what I'm thinking. But they still need help. That's why I said, with this food stamp situation, why stop this sugary stuff? Because not all are single, are single mothers. There's also military personnel that are on it too, or their families anyway, because they're not making the right amount. And I understand that, yeah, they get free rent if they stay on base. If they stay on the base, or in the Army's case, post, then they get free rent because it's, military housing. But if they go outside there, like my parents often did, yeah, they have to pay rent too. So I'm sure there's other families that do that, but they're struggling. When the soldiers go overseas to do their job, the families are left home struggling because they don't have the extra. And even when they're home, when I was growing up, my dad still had to do a night job. He went into the motor because he worked on the military vehicles. He was good at doing, fixing cars and stuff. And, he worked on the big things like the tanks and stuff. Okay. So during the day, he was at the motor pool until it was time to get off. Then he went and had maybe a nap or two. Then he went to, I think it was the NCO club last time. He would go 10 bar there for the night. And that's how we sort of made it. But when he wasn't there, we couldn't do that. As a matter of fact, when we were in Washington, we were struggling. My mom was working, and my brother Michael got a job working at a taxidermist shop to, help take care of things. And I'm pretty sure my brother Tom did too, but I don't remember what he did. He may have worked at something else, but, and both of them did fine. They went through their, education and, you know, I mean, they're not super rich, but they're enough to, be able to live and raise their kids. Michael's got 3 kids from the first marriage, a kid or 2 from the second one, and maybe a couple from the third one. I'm not sure, because it's not my business. Because right now he doesn't talk to me. There's a reason for that. Well, people lied to him, is what they did. But, hey, I can't push him into understanding that, he's got to figure that on his own. That's why I always keep my stuff open, so that if he sees me on there and he decides, hey, let's put all this stuff, we'll put it all behind us and won't have to worry about it. But, until then, I'm not going to push myself on him and stuff like that. But, life hands us what we can and can deal with. Let me put it right. I personally love living in California. I didn't like living in Texas. But we got to do what we had to do. And it's not like we wanted to. But with our checks being lowered, we have it's a little harder to do stuff around here and have enough to buy stuff. I just got to keep enough where I can pay my Walmart Plus so I can order stuff if we have to order it. And I can order it and they can deliver it, but, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to go out. So, that's all changed now with the lowering of the rent. I mean, I can cover the rent, I can cover our storage in California, I can cover the bed payment and maybe the couch payment, and I'm going to have to lower my cell phone payments from 98 to 60 something for 2. So, which I don't mind, because, when I don't go traveling, so I don't use up my mobile data. But, like I said, life in the military gets hard, and people think, they get all kinds of money when they don't. And I can tell you that because I grew up in it, so I know. So if you think that troops get paid all kinds of money, which they should have a lot of money paid to them because of what they do go through, they don't. They struggle with making ends meet. They struggle with getting food in their household. They struggle. And you think the commissary don't have no cheaper prices than any other store outside. Like off base, I've seen it. Like I said, I lived it. I watched my parents struggle. They did the best they could for us, In the long run, there was nothing left, When my mother died, my dad was all, mixed about how she managed the house payment, the bills, and all that stuff. And he sort of got taken advantage of by my third older brother, the one that came right before me, like 2 years before me, which he's dead now. He put me through a lot of problems too that I won't go into. Just know that I'm a survivor of certain things. But, I, life's a banquet. Eat it up. But I just hope that you guys understand now that um, when you see a soldier, thank them, because there's more to their sacrifice than just their lives. They sacrifice being able to take care of their kids. Um, my daughter, who we put up for adoption when she was a baby, that's a story in itself. One day I might sit and explain why. She's in the Navy now. She joined the Navy like a year, almost 2 years now. And so I do worry about her having to go over there, but she'll be on a ship. But still, if you can't swim, you're going to end up, especially in shark-infested waters. You know, those things do tend to sink too sometimes, even the big ones. But like I said, hopefully all things go well. I just wanted to, explain that to you, because a lot of people online think that the troops get all this kind of money and they don't. And like I said, the only way is if they stay on base, and it's still kind of hard because you still got to deal with buying groceries and getting meds, because sometimes you can't get the meds on base. But, we'll see. Want to see what kind of day we're having? I'll show you. Them clouds. Anyway. Oh, there goes the wind. Back here. Anyway, thanks for watching. Ooh, that hit my side. That hurt. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye. Have a good day.